Hey, this is David Perdue from MyNAMS.com and the Novice to Advanced Marketing System. You remember that? System. And today we're doing our weekly live training. We're getting started a little bit late. We've had some real technical issues, and I think we've learned some lessons with using Webinar Jam here. But one of the things that I wanted to do was make sure that I got an introduction in here that's a proper introduction for Stephen Memel. I've known Stephen now for about, I'd say 4 months, maybe 4 or 5 months, and every time I talk to him, I love this guy even more because he has such a great heart to begin with, and he really does not get flustered, believe it or not. He does not get flustered. He's got a great center. We were at the NAMS workshop, and he did a 5.5-hour workshop with us on improving and creating a stage presence. And we're not talking about being in theater. We're talking about a presence for whether you're in the webinar or whether you're in the boardroom or whether you're in the theater. And Stephen's done a great job of helping us understand what it takes to be an authority in your business and present that authority. So he's got this thing he calls the science of switching on, and he has been really using it today. So I'm gonna turn it over to Stephen and bring him in here and let him actually talk about the science of switching on and what he can teach us today. So Stephen, thank you for being here.
David, thank you, and it is a very, very big mutual admiration society. There's no question. And I know the reason people are on the line today is because of you, so thank you. And I want to thank everybody who's listening for hanging with us, and my goal is to deliver some really, really choice bits that you can take away and start working right away to amp up your confidence level, your presence, your ability to really turn it on under fire, and when you really need to be counted upon and you have to make it happen. So that's what my aim is today.
So Stephen, let's just talk through a few things, and if you have anything you want to show us via slides, you know how to do that, right? You've got your presentation there on, and I want you to notice I'm wearing my Hollywood black today, right? It's a little frumpy, but it's a Hollywood black, so I thought that would be appropriate. So when you're ready, why don't you just start in, and the way we do this is you teach for a while, and when you want me back, just give me a yell, okay?
Well, let me tell you what I'm going to do today and how I'm going to do it, because with all the technical difficulties, and we had some, getting started beforehand also, we thought we solved them, but I'm going to do less slides and more talking, but being very clear about the points that we're discussing.
Okay.
And I think that's going to be more effective than me messing around. I wish I had some of the slides, and I'll maybe read some on my computer while we're going along, but I'm going to mostly be discussing what's going on.
Okay, good.
So that's the policy here.
All right.
So the first thing that I want to talk about is, well, give me a break. Hang on a second. I'm going to quit that app. That's what you get for restarting your computer. And what we're going to talk about here is things like, what do you do if you're not living up to your full potential when you're speaking in public? What are the things that you either know about or don't know about that can either really tremendously raise your game or somehow lower it? That's a very, very important thing to know, because we tend not to be aware so much of certain things that we unintentionally communicate. So if when I'm speaking to you, I start having, like a bit of a crinkly voice. There's nothing wrong with that, but that voice is going to communicate a certain impression, possibly a certain level of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
If you're physically, stepping back, or you're not conscious of what your body's doing while you're communicating, that can cause problems. And certain subtle things that go on, and some not so subtle things that go on in your mind, can really undermine your effectiveness, your impact, the influence you have on other people, and by direct correlation, the opportunities that arise for you in your career.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I get as many opportunities because of what I've trained myself inside to do, as well as the outer skills of voice, body, communication techniques, listening, all these elements. I know that those are important, but those not being filled with a certain level of presence, those not being filled with a certain level of connection, a certain level of fluidity and comfort, you're going to have diminished results. And I'm sure you can relate to that. I mean, is there something that you can?
Are you kidding? When I started the NAMS workshop and system and all of that, I go through this every time I try to take on a new challenge. There's always that quivering inside about whether I can do it or not, right? And
right.
I like to tell people I've never had a job that I was able to do. I mean, the truth is, I've never taken a job that I knew how to do. I've always taken jobs I didn't know how to do. And you have to learn how to do them, right? That's the deal. So you get over it, but you're scared at first.
Right, right. And you need to know that you're not alone. One of the things that people do is they stop themselves because they feel they have to wait at some level for the fear to end for them to be able to take the action. I really need to get over my fear. And I would say, no, you don't. And it's not that kind of push through and, fake it till you make it. I have quite a problem with fake it till you make it, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. That's lying to yourself. I believe in making choices, and I'll be very specific about that later. But I was able to spend some time with the guy who engineered the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
I think White Album and a few other small successes like that. And
that's like the White Album, right?
and he talks about George, Paul, John, and Ringo like, the boys, which I understand because I'm working with a very successful group that's going on right now, and that's what I tend to call them, is the boys. And Mia, my wife, slapped my hand about that. She said, stop that. But anyway, when he was asked to engineer the album, or produce, rather than just engineer it, he said he felt completely over his head.
Right.
He felt terrified, and get this, he was within inches of turning it down.
Yep.
I think he could do it. Now, what that resulted in was him figuring out how to do it, just like, I'm in the process right here, figuring out how to do things. And he, by virtue of that, discovered stuff that people who knew what they were talking about had never even thought of. So, there's a great quote by Nietzsche, which is, one must still have chaos in one's life to give birth to a dancing star.
Mm.
And there's a million different versions of that in creative literature. And it's really true. You have to be able to release to the chaos and, to the best of your ability, not have a problem with it. And that's one of the key points David, please say something.
Oh, I was just going to say that the chaos piece of that, we all, we try so hard to control our lives and make our lives so much simpler. And I really do. My wife and I, we have a sign over our back door that says simplicity. That's so important to us. But it's the chaos that gives us the room sometimes to discover what we wouldn't have tried before, And here's an example. I built my own house. It's a log house.
Impressive.
I'd always wanted to do that. I'd never built a house before in my life, and this was a log house. I dug a hole in the ground on the side of a hill that is it's like a 40-degree grade hill, and I dug a hole in the hill and stood at the base of that hill when we put the footing in, and I stood there and looked around and said, "Oh my God, what have I done?" Because I didn't know what was next. And if I hadn't done that, if I had been afraid, well, I was afraid. If I had turned it down or hired somebody else or gotten scared and run away, I would never have had the best experience of my life of taking a year off and building that house. That was just the most fun I've ever had.
Right, absolutely. And there's a great quote by the famous race driver Mario Andretti where he says, if you feel like everything's under control, you're not going nearly fast enough.
I like that.
Right? You're not going nearly fast enough. So, and this leads into one of the core principles about freedom and presence and power and influence. I have 10 core principles. We won't go into them all, but this one takes a little thinking, so put on your listening cap before I say it, which is, you ready?
I'm ready.
Have to let go of control before you can control what you let go of.
You have to let go of control
before you can control what you let go of. And I'll give you a concrete example of that. What's fascinating and contributed to my development of the system, the science of switching on, was a realization I had when I was 21 as a young artist, and I did multi-disciplines. I did everything from singing to acting to dance to writing music. I've done it all. And I just had this thought one day, these are all the same principles involved in each one. They're just a different form that you're moving them through, but it's the same principles. And then I had that thought, including the art called life.
Uh-huh.
I went, I should write a book about that. And then the next thought, of course, at that point in my life was, right, you lazy bum, you're really going to do something.
Uh-huh.
But here I am, and the core principle is there is only one art. That art is you. The rest we're just talking about really a distribution channel, literally like in a business. Where are you sending this relatively more or less free and fully exploited part of you, piece or you, through? What channel is it going through? So the let go of control, let me get to that, back to that. With let go of control, what I will do frequently is when I work with somebody on just a vocal level, especially singers and artists, I'll break them loose of the control that they've got through certain of my little tricks and things, and some amazing sound will come out. And usually it's because I've gotten them away from that ponderous thinking mind and gotten them into experiential.
Right.
So I'll say, that was awesome, and they'll feel how awesome that was. They'll feel that sense of freedom. And when I talk about sense of freedom and release and comfort, you don't have to be an artist to know what that is. Everybody knows what that is. I mean, I'm not looking at the chat right now, but I'd be interested. Is there anybody out there do people know what I'm talking about when I say that unself-conscious, uninhibited freedom? Are we getting some yeses?
We have a little lag here always in Webinar Jam, but RB says I'm feeling much better about myself already. So, that's great.
Good. Good. So what they'll do, though, after that experience is I'll say, all right, do it again. And this is what they'll do. You see my eyes kind of going up, right? What they're doing is they've moved from the experiential space, which we're not so familiar with leveraging in Western culture. We're overburdened by the mind. Very important part, but we're overburdened by it. And they're starting to figure out how they did that experiential thing. But figure didn't get them there.
Right.
It was letting go of figuring. But unfortunately, that takes a certain amount of risk, and people are afraid to do that risk.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So you're getting a lot of yeses now, and Marge is saying, yes, you said it so well. So Wendy's good stuff. You're on track here. People are really identifying with this. And, you know, one of the things that we're finding when we have conversations with marketers who are just getting started, it's not about the technology. It's about this stuff. It's about how to get inside your head and stay there, or not get inside your head and find a way to really connect with people. So, you know, this is what you're talking about.
Yeah, and, you know, I had a guy in here yesterday who is in charge of Mercedes-Benz ads on television. He's the creative director for those, and really nice guy. But in our work together, he was able to leverage understanding this space because he knows it in the boardroom. He knows it when he's presenting to CEOs who he presents to all the time.
Right.
It was like, oh, I never thought of the connection, right? So we get to this place where we try to figure, and there are these two forms of processing that we can do. Our minds can process in a linear fashion, which we need, and which those new marketers need. Every new marketer needs to build the channel. I call it their stairway to heaven. And that's your distribution channel. That's your skills like copywriting. That's your skills like either finding a team who can build your websites or learning how to build your websites, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What is the structure of a good offer? I mean, there's massive structural things that have to happen.
Sure.
But on the other hand, you can have all those in place and have the other stuff not in place and not be able to make use of the structure. Likewise, you can have all the mindset stuff in place, but you'll short-circuit yourself because you haven't built a structure.
Yeah,
So,
that makes complete sense. And when you were talking about the distribution channel, I'm kind of fascinated by that concept that we are our own art and everything else is distribution channel. So what are you distributing when you go through the distribution channel?
That's a good question. Go on, David.
No, that was it.
Okay, what are you distributing? You're distributing things like, and this is part of what I wanted to talk about, is, you know, the whole idea of people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So most people try to, a varying degree, behave caringly. But behaving caringly is different than caring. So how do you learn how to care? And your care is one thing you're distributing. That care translates into a lot of powerful things. One is it translates into connection. But more than connection, what's at the bottom of connection is this massive need of human beings to truly be seen and heard for who they really are, to really feel met and heard, right?
So if I have a real problem stating my authority, let's say, you worked with me at the workshop quite a bit, and I really appreciated that. And it really helped me understand that if I have some confidence in my authority, it will come out of my mouth, right? And it'll be part of the way I can hold myself and present myself in front of other people.
It's a concept called congruence.
Okay.
And feel congruence, which is what's going on inside, manifests physically, and comes out in your and clarifies in your thoughts and comes out of your mouth as your words. And all of that feeling and communication is congruent. It's in alignment. And, it's fascinating to me how everything in the material world has kind of a correlation in the non-material world. And this is whether you want to be, spiritual, not spiritual, I don't care. But this is kind of both. But if you take one speaker, a loudspeaker emits a sound wave, right? And has a certain, peaks and valleys, right? Well, if you turn on another speaker, another sound source, and it has sound waves that are crossing the other ones, what they do is they're in conflict and they cancel each other out. And not only do they diminish the sound that you'll get from your speakers in total, but you can have actual dead spots.
Huh.
Now, line those waves up so that they're what's called in phase. You don't get a little bit more. It literally doubles the volume. It doubles the volume because you have two sound waves in sync. That's you congruent. That's what people feel when you walk into a room. Now, what are you congruent? What are the things you can actually do? Because that's a great concept. But what can you actually do, right? From our work together, did you have any big takeaways about that? And I hate to put you on the spot, but
but here I am, right on the spot. So
Yeah, but you want to try, or you want me to kind of?
Well, let's see. From our work at the workshop, one of the things that I was very concerned about was that I ate my words too much. I just kept them inside my mouth at a lower level. So I'd introduce myself and say, I'm David Perdue from MyNAMS, like I'm a novice to advanced marketing. And, it was like I just wanted to get it out instead of stating who I was proudly because we do a great job. And you really helped me with that by saying, what is it that you're doing and do you like what you're doing? So that was
right.
Now, is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
That is so perfect because now I can take something concrete like that and say, this is what's going on. This is what happens in, the science of switching on. I'm going to divert for 1 second here. Has what I call the 5 stages of quickening. Quickening is that state that I'm talking about. Absolute comfort. When I'm talking about stages, I'm not talking about linear progression. I'm talking about literally platforms upon which you must become a master performer. Okay? One is the stage of body, which is anything physical, whether it's your body or it's your environment or whatever. We didn't master this beginning of this show, right?
Right.
A lot on me, but
a lot on technology.
I stepped closer to mastering it by this experience. Now, so stage of body, stage of mind are the thoughts you're thinking undermining you or supporting you, purely that, are the thoughts I'm thinking, which frequently people aren't even aware of, undermining me or supporting me. If they're aware of them, they're not asking that question.
Mm-hmm.
And you have control. You have choice. The third stage is a stage of emotion, which is experience, feeling, connectivity, passion. We talk about passion in entrepreneurialism all the time. People are so passionate in how that affects their audience and their listeners. And then the fourth stage is the stage of energy, which is at what level can you turn that light on and how can you heighten that or diminish it and really control the moment doing. You can really bring it up and you can there's all sorts of things that you can do to really change things and change the energy and change them mechanically and then also bring them down to the simplest little moment. So let's talk about what you were saying about how you announced yourself. So, by saying, what do you feel, I dislodged you from physical control. Your mind now went off the subject of my voice is being swallowed.
Mm-hmm.
Because while you were speaking, you were also thinking, besides the words and trying to communicate those, actually those became very unimportant, what you were communicating. What really became important to you at that moment was, oh, I sound terrible, I'm swallowing my words.
Right.
Right?
That's it, exactly. Yep. Judgment.
Judgment, and that's really what it comes down to. So that judgment creates a conflict inside that distracts you from being present, and being present here and now in what you're doing is presence. That's why they call it stage presence, present. Okay, it distracted you from that, but also it diminished your energy because you were negatively attacking yourself while you were doing it. So when we're under attack, what do?
Go in. Yeah.
Right.
Collapse.
Now, if you're there to really greet somebody and really to say, I'm so thrilled to be here with you, and you're really doing that, and you mean it passionately, and like I said, don't behave caringly, care, where does your energy go?
It goes outward.
Outward. Now, one thing that's going to cause a problem is, if you don't have any vocal technique, that's the channel that is now distracting you. So you can be really ready emotionally and internally to go for it, but one of two things can happen. It gets bottled up at the release point, or you're not aware of what's happening with your voice. And some people can have, go at a speed like this and they're very free, but they don't know that they talk with this like this, and they have this voice that's high and tight, and this is all they do, and they never really take pauses, and it's the same rhythm all the time. And though their content is good, and that's why people listen to them and really take in what they do and think they're really good, imagine if they stopped doing all this and it was, instead of that, they had pauses.
Uh-huh.
Variety. That's all mechanics. That's all body, right?
So that would be the same thing that we're doing in our writing when we're using subheads, bullets, and paragraphs, right?
Et voilà.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's it. There's always a structure. There's always a form. If you don't know the form, it doesn't mean you'll fail completely, because I got into the entrepreneurial world. I'd always wanted to do that. Well, I was always an entrepreneur with my business, but into the business and marketing world just a number of years ago. And I knew I was inviting pain because I know what it's like to not know the structure of things. Mm-hmm. But I also knew, beyond a shadow of a doubt, and here's one of my other core principles, learning is nonlinear and inevitable.
Writing that down.
Learning is nonlinear and inevitable. So I could make every mistake in the book, and it didn't matter, because I know that I have to actively stand in the way of my brain, which does a much better job than I think it does. Well, I know. But to stop from learning. But what most people do is, while they're learning, they have anxiety about learning this stuff, like, oh, I'll never get my voice right, or oh, I'll always be nervous. So what they do is they literally do stand in the way of allowing the fastest absorption of the new material, of the new skills to happen. That's getting in your own way.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain is occupied with anxiety rather than integration. Make sense?
It does. It makes complete sense.
Other time.
But I want to ask a question, though, because you're saying that this fear, or it's not so much fear as it is actually judgment. We're our own worst enemies. I know that, and
right.
I'm a great example of that. But that constant judgment that we have and we think we're hiding, you're saying that you can't hide that unless you consciously create a structure to present what you really want to present, right? Am I getting that right?
Yes, yes, but the thing is, you've got two jobs. One is to do something other than negatively judge yourself. You can context anything that you do positively. Well, you know, this was not a perfect start, but I learned a lot, you know, and I know other people who would go through that and go, oh, it was a terrible thing afterwards. I was the biggest doom and gloom person in the world. I was the meltdown king. I had awful stage fright and anxiety. I was a tortured soul.
Which is why you became an actor, right?
Which is why I became an actor. But I actually think it was. I was trying to improve. I don't think, I know. I was trying to improve my value and add to it by performing well. And that's what all of us do to some degree. Our value is tied to our performance. But in any event, I lost a little bit of the judgment. You got two things. One is the judgment. You have to context it differently, but also you have to be careful of the loop of judging yourself for being judgmental.
So you got two jobs. Get rid of the judgment as much as you can, right?
And provide the avenue through which everything can reach the world.
Okay, good, good. So how does this? So here we are with a bunch of people on the call here, who are listening to this and identifying with this, and they are seeing themselves in this. You know, we all do this. How do we command then, or take command of that presence that we're trying to create, so that we can get our message across and people will believe us? And there, I guess, might be a problem with even the way I said that, because I'm not trying to manipulate, I'm just trying to present, right?
Yes. If you want to get really away from dangerous words, and I don't want to be, you know, like a Nazi about it, you know, but I need to say something to somebody, period. And I don't care if it's one person or 1,000 people. I'm still me saying something, and people freak out when that box, the red light goes on video camera, when they're standing up in front of a crowd or presenting to a small thing. That goes on. So how do you get in command of it? What you do is you realize that there are elements that are concrete, like learning awareness, starting to become in concrete exercises that I give people about, oh, notice that, and they'd never noticed that before, because it's hard, as they say, to see the label from inside the jar. So as a coach and as a guide, one of the things I do is help people to become aware of things that they are completely unconscious about, patterns that they can't even feel they're doing because they just feel normal to them, but patterns which may really determine their ultimate success or failure, or the degree to which they can achieve it. And they can be patterns of how they use their body, patterns of how they use their voice, where they go emotionally, and there are concrete exercises that you can do for each one. For instance, here's a very simple 3-step process. At any point in the day, sit back and say, am I thinking? I know it sounds basic, but you got to get the fundamentals. Yes. Question 2, what am I thinking? Wow. I'm thinking I'm never going to get this finished, or whatever your thing is. Third question is, am I willing to experience the consequences of those thoughts? Because how are you more likely to finish? If you say, look, I'll do what I can do, and I'll get as much done as I can get, and then I'll release control and deliver a message, which you can do in your pajamas. You can care about people and give them your knowledge and expertise in your pajamas. Just think all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very powerful and simple process. In voice, there are things I demonstrated them understanding the mechanics that you have available to yourself, like volume, rate of speed, being able to change the variety of these. Pitch, which most people aren't comfortable doing things differently about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that sounds phony, but that's because I'm doing it on purpose, and you'll feel phony when you do it because it's not your natural thing. But the ultimate effect is, when it becomes part of you, is people start finding more interest in what you're saying. They're just captivated more because we're captivated. Seth Godin's purple cow, for goodness sake.
So our friend Lawrence, who was in your workshop, just posted in here, you might be afraid of being perceived as a game show host or a cheesy used car salesman. Remember that?
You know what, Lawrence? Thank you so much. Because here's one of the most important things that will stop most people. And I guarantee you, most people will experience this to some degree. When you change something that you're doing, whether it's a physical habit, a mental habit, an emotional habit, whatever, it feels wrong. It feels wrong. So your internal perception is, you may feel, and this is what Lawrence was so gracious about playing with us on, I got Lawrence going to where I wanted him to go, and he said, well, I feel like a game show host. And I said, great, remember that. I want you now to deliver your video copy as a game show host.
Right.
What was the result, David?
So we all in the audience told him as he delivered, just as he finished delivering, it was much, much better. He felt like he was way out there, but he was actually connecting so much, in a more real way with us by going as far as he could. And one of the things about going as far as you can is you never stay out there, right? It's just the limit, and you come back, so you're learning a new way of doing things, and then you come back to a comfortable place.
Right, it integrates, and it's a perfect way. And that happens without fail for almost every person I work with. Their internal perception of what they're coming across as is different than what people receive. And it goes both directions. Most people, I've said, I have to work to get more out of, but I'm working with a very successful person right now. I don't know if you know Kim Castle. She and Vito Montone created Brand U was their product, and now they've moved on. They have a very successful YouTube channel. She just signed with, I think I can say this, Maker Studios, which is the big YouTube. So they're doing some lifestyles. She's really going. You can go to Kim TV or Naked Kim and see her stuff. But she says, from our work, my God, I feel like I'm flat.
Mm-hmm.
Because her thing was being above her center. And that's why I call it calibration. Her stuff was being above the center.
Mm-hmm.
And so it came off as less authentic. But when she feels like she's being flat, other people is experiencing as, my God, I feel so connected to her.
Mm-hmm. I understand that.
You can't see that on your own.
So Stan, who was also in the workshop at NAMS, said, I also hear you saying to use the fear and the judgment when appropriate so it's integrated. And that integration piece is a lot of what you're talking about.
Yep, absolutely. Now, I'd love to take some questions from people if anybody has some. I mean, David, how do you feel about that?
Sure, we can do that. We'll tell people to put their questions in there if they have them. But I wanted to come back to more concrete tips and techniques for a few minutes, if you can.
Yeah.
Because you are the master of this concept of switching on, and you've done that today. If people could just go back to the beginning, like 5 minutes before the beginning, and before we actually say that, I want to say something on about before we came in about awareness. And before you got on, I said one of the things that you did for me was you pointed out the areas of my presentation that was that the speech that I had, the mannerisms that I had, those kind of things, which once they were pointed out, good or bad, it was like throwing red paint on them, right? So I see them now every time I do something. I've made several videos since I came back, and when I stand in front of the video camera, I'm consciously thinking I'm doing that again, or I'm not doing that again, or don't do that, or whatever it is. So just being aware has really helped me with that. So you were talking also about the tips and the techniques that we talked about a little bit earlier. So get into that a little bit.
Okay, let's talk about one that most people don't do, which is they don't breathe. I'm not saying they don't breathe correctly. They don't breathe.
Right.
Right? Now, an audience doesn't know you're not breathing, but they do respond to not breathing because there's a certain something when people don't breathe. And there's a certain different thing that you feel when somebody has that. The audience goes, I'm safe. That person's relaxed. I can feel comfortable. So literally the difference between being able to be conscious and making really deep breath a part of what you do, not an interruption. Like I say to singers, the breath is not what you do in between the moments. It's part of the music.
Right.
So what people get caught up in every field, whether it's speaking or presenting or singing, is they either don't breathe, so these little late breaths, or and up too much on one line and they just go like that, and so because they don't think they can stop because they're not comfortable with a pause or breaking it in an unusual pace. The other thing they do is they've worked on their breathing and they try to do it right.
Yeah.
So what I have is a solution I call the Superman breath. I did it with the young guy yesterday, as a matter of fact. I said, are you trying to do correct breathing? He said, well, yeah, I wanted to make sure. I said, forget it. I said, so here it is. Superman is on the dock. The tugboat is out in the mist. It's pastoral. It's beautiful. Oh, lovely. And then all of a sudden, the oil tanker comes out of the mist on a collision course towards Superman. He's got to blow the tanker out of the way because he can't fly out there, and he... Okay, that's a Superman breath. It's called just sucked down a big pile of air. Okay? Try it right now. If you're out there, try it again. Just do that. Blow all your air out, so you have somewhere to go, and just go. And do it as long as... Okay, is that more air, David, than you normally take?
Yeah, that was actually not enough.
Yeah.
I kind of wimped out on it.
Do it again then. Good. All right. Now, I want you to do this, and this is a mind-bending exercise, but you're going to do this. You're going to go, hello, and then you're going to do this.
Okay. I'm like your guinea pig.
Mine
right?
is, you see that?
Hello.
Good. Breath.
My name is David Perdue, MyNAMS.com, Novice Advanced Marketing System.
Much.
Okay.
My name, I have people do it between every word, if they're really, but my name is David Perdue is enough, right?
Got it.
And you also want to make sure you don't go up in pitch. Hello. My name is David Perdue. Now, I know that sounds phony. Do it phony for a second. Let people hear it.
This is it. Hello. My name is David Perdue.
Good.
All right.
Right? Now, I'd work with you if we were doing some intense work to even drop it in further because it's good. But, it's playing with those things. So that's a concrete thing, work with the breath. Another concrete thing is work with your rate of speed. So say, hello, my name is David Perdue.
Hello, my name is David Perdue.
Good. Now go. Hello, my name is David Perdue.
Hello, my name is David Perdue.
You broke it after hello. Do hello, my name is David Perdue.
Hello, my name is David Perdue.
There you go.
Okay.
Feel the difference in that?
Yep.
I'm not saying good or bad. I'm saying different. Variety.
Yep.
Okay. Now, you want another concrete?
Sure.
Telling a story. One thing I teach is Hollywood storytelling techniques. You're really writing a screenplay. It's got to have beginning, middle, and an end. It's got to have climax and denouement. There's a journey you have to take people through on a story level. And we know that as copywriters, that there is a journey, but we very seldom, when we articulate that, take them on the journey as we do it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't let that reflect in how we communicate, in our level of passion, in our pullback, in our quietness, in our excitedness, you know. We kind of go, and they're very good speakers with amazing content who do financially well, who don't do any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But would anybody be interested in a 5% increase in their bottom line this year?
Oh, yeah, I believe so, yeah.
10, you know?
Yeah, now you're talking.
Do you think that being a more compelling speaker might help you sell more?
Absolutely. That's why we have you on here.
Okay? So you want to have the beginning, which is a setup. You always got to think of it as, here's the setup. Here's the context for the story. Because everybody needs a context. If I say to you, you know, later on, I'm going to show you how you can work with me on a deeper level, if that should make sense to you. I'll show you how you can do that. What do we call that in marketing? Seeding, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what are you actually doing? You're setting up a context for everything else to happen. Okay? Then you take them on the journey of the story. Now, this, of course, it gets much more detailed when we get into it and I start coaching people on it. But what's the journey? What's the rise? What's the what they call inciting incident, which in screenplay, which is the my story part, you know? But it's an inciting incident. It's the thing that creates the drama. And then how does it build, and how does it get worse, and then how does it get excited, and what's the almost resolution, what's the almost failure of the hero, but then the ultimate success, and now the Hollywood happy ending.
Right.
Unless you're in a Bergman film.
Yep.
So how many people think of their copywriting, their presentations, in terms of that? There's a a friend we have in common who is another great leader in the marketing world, and we were talking about his presentation, and this person had in his earlier days owned music studios, and I said, well, would you ever produce a track that sounded like that presentation? You know, produce a song track that sounded like that? Wouldn't you have the intro, the beginning, and he went, oh my God, this is a very successful marketer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? He went, oh my God, of course. And that understanding and thinking of it took it out of mechanics of presentation and took it into magic of presentation.
Yep. You know, and I have many years as a journalist, and we always talked about the hook. And the hook was your inciting incident, I think you called it.
Yes.
Where you get people into the story and you hold them into the story with the hook, and then you build around that. And that's kind of what you're talking about. So one of the things I wanted to talk about here and bring back to was the switching on concept. We haven't really
Okay.
talked about that very much. And we have a lot of questions. So after this, I think we will go to questions. But you talked about the science of switching on, and I was fascinated by this at the workshop that you gave for us. And in fact, this afternoon, I watched you do it, because as we came into this, this is going to be edited, so people who see this later are not going to see the fumbling we did in the beginning. But we did 30 minutes of trying to get this thing started, and it was a real mess in the beginning. It was just hilarious, but it was a mess. And when you came in then and sat down, it was like, whew, okay. And I knew what you were doing. I want you to talk about that.
That's great. So you saw. Good, good. First of all, let me say the state I'm in right now is I'm conscious of making sure we're moving in the right directions. I'm conscious of a lot of things, but I'm 99% in funland. I love this. I'm having such a good time, and I care about the people that I get to communicate this to, which is one of the secrets. And in switching on, that's a major secret. I'll give you my ritual before I walk on anywhere or get into any webinar or any meeting. Two things. One, I focus on what am I there to communicate. If I don't turn my mind away from how am I doing, what are they thinking of me, or are they upset about the fact that there were fumbles, if I don't turn my mind away from that and turn my mind to I have experience, I have valuable things that I can help people with, and I can see things that people have not had the experience of seeing in themselves or in others, and it'll make a difference to them. If I share those things with them, this could make a substantial difference in their life, in their comfort, in their joy, in their finances, which is what we're all really trying to do, and in the purpose we live our life for. So what am I there to communicate? The minute I log into that, I move away from self-consciousness. I am still self-aware, but I am not self-conscious. It's a big distinction. So in that space, I'm free. In that space, I can do anything. And I wasn't like that. It's hard to imagine me not being like that, I know. But it's just like I was told I was tone deaf when I was younger. And now I've coached some of the biggest people in the industry, okay? The second step, so that's the first step. What am I here to communicate? The second step is a commitment that I make to myself that at the end of whatever event I'm in, whatever moment it is, I commit to feeling good about myself regardless of what happens while I'm in there doing it. There is no part of me that is going to surrender to putting my self-worth and my feeling of goodness up on the auction block. Just ain't going to happen. I'm done with that. And if I feel the pull, I go, sorry, I'm not interested. You were very helpful back in the day protecting me. Take a knee.
I've got it from here.
I got it from here. I'm talking to the other guys in here now, the ones who love and are happy and fulfilled, right? So those two commitments allow me to release to a place besides many other things. And I'll give you one other really good one after this, really concrete. Those are things that allow me to release. And when I'm done, I ask myself, because I want this to be patterned into my brain, did I, to the best of my ability, communicate what I was there to communicate? And the answer is mostly yes. Not was I good. Did I do my best that I could possibly do at the moment? And like Maya Angelou said, if you could have done better, you would have. I believe that, okay? And yes, you may have adjustments to make, but it's not you. It's stuff you got to do, right? And then the other thing is I just say, okay, if I did that, done deal. I'm now going to enjoy this beautiful moment of life that I have because I know how to be present now, presence, and not be living in the future or the past, of how doing a lesser job is going to negatively affect my future, or how doing a lesser job might have impacted and ruined relationships and all that kind of stuff I used to torture myself with.
Right.
Okay. The other technique I'm going to give you is what I call the quirky move.
The quirky move?
Quirky move.
Okay.
All right. Not going to be easy for people, but I suggest you try it, even sneaking it when you're presenting or speaking somewhere, or even in a conversation with an individual who you feel a little uncomfortable with. Like, it could even be you're on a date and you'd like not to feel as awkward as you feel. All right. So the reason you feel awkward is because you're trying to do it right. And that makes you constantly monitoring and like, I know he knows what I'm talking about, that sense of stiffness and awkwardness. It's unique to me, but it's because you're trying to do it right. So what I do is when I become aware that I'm caught in that, I intentionally, and a lot of the work I do is around intentional action, behavior, thinking, feeling. I intentionally do something odd. That was a little quirky move, okay? And by doing something like that, I get a signal to my body that there is no right, and a signal to my brain. And when we go into detail with people, I go into a lot in understanding how we're wired in more detail than they've usually heard about, but not in ponderous, but so that they can go, oh, it's not my fault. It's my responsibility, but it isn't my fault that I feel these ways. So that signals my brain, I'm in no danger because I can do something silly.
Okay. I am taking notes like you wouldn't believe here. I love this. This has been good stuff.
Is this valuable for you, David?
It has been great. Yeah, it has been great. People have said here over and over, this is great stuff in here in the chat box. So, I'm going to, we got a bunch of questions here. And let's see. I want to make sure that I get down to where they kind of start. So let me just get... Ron says one of the things that he has seen is he needs to work harder on me than on my product from this. This has been a good indicator for him. So, talk about that for a second. And then Donald is asking any specific tips for video. So, is in your opinion, is it something that you need to work harder on you than you do your product to be successful?
Unquestionably, because most people have wired the product thing more than they've wired the me thing. And it's not that you're not effective in the world. My God, I work with the highest people in the business. They're very effective, but there are things they haven't considered. So yes, if you have reasonable skills at you're building a product, now you need to work on the other side, because what that's going to do is that's going to release a lot of the energy wasted in all this inner turmoil. When that energy is no longer being used for that, it's up for grabs. And automatically, you'll start creating better products. You'll start seeing more possibility. You'll start not having a problem where you used to have a problem. It releases you to your greatest capability to access your skills, talents, your concrete ones. So, yes, it's a massive area. Ultimately, you've got to have the outer game and the inner game, but most people spend much more time on the outer game, and that they spend on the inner game, unfortunately, is filled with a lot of, platitudes. People are doing great things out there, but a lot of things that have lost their meaning to us. You got to have your why. Yes. What does that really mean? Way down in here, what does that really mean? That's your fuel, right? So anyway,
That's your answer.
Okay. And the next one was, what should I do with, you know, you were talking earlier about people and the movement, the quirky move and all of that stuff. And I would guess that one of the biggest questions that you get when you're teaching people about speaking is somebody says to you, what should I do with my hands?
Right.
And I have a feeling that this question will lead itself to there as well. Are you still here, Stephen? I see that you dropped out. So the question is, I'm going to invite Stephen back real quick just to make sure that we get him. So the question that's coming up is from, here he comes. The question that's coming up is from Stan, and he says, what else should I do with my body, presence, style besides smile when talking about glad things? So, look, you have changed on me. That's me calling you.
I'm here.
So just hang that up.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can. We're good. So the question that we left with is, Stan says, what else should I do with my body, present, style besides smiling when talking about...
Okay, now the only thing is I need to be able to hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can, yay.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So Stan says, what else should I do with my body, present, style besides smiling when talking about glad things?
Okay, so here's the interesting question. David, what are you doing with your hands now?
I'm sitting naturally, hand on chin.
Right, because you haven't decided that being in that room, even though it may have, is a different thing than being you in the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is we decide that it's something different when we get up on the stage. So now the problem is, are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yep, gotcha.
Good. You were still, and I was worried with all the technical stuff. Okay, so the problem is you need to start being aware of how you move when you're not feeling self-conscious. It's like what I call walking around in the world keeping one eye open.
Uh-huh.
You know? So here I am talking to my friend, and oh my God, I'm talking to my friend who I'm really comfortable with. What the heck am I doing? Because most people,
right?
What's that?
This feels like a conversation we had a couple of days ago where we were just being comfortable in a hangout. That was it.
That's it. And that is what it is. So that's one thing. Now, if you're feeling like that's not sufficient, then what you've got to do is you've got to stretch the boundaries. It's just like the voice, stretching the boundaries of vocal variety for pitch, speed, rhythm, and all that. There are those many variables in variety in movement. So there's really staccato movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's being able to move fluidly and becoming comfortable with that. And there's being able to move like this. You know, there's being able to present with very, you know, I am presenting with my hands and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then there's stillness presenting, where you're not moving anything and you're really learning how to put your intensity into the camera and really talking to people like you mean it. Now, I'm not talking through the camera, and that's one of my real techniques. Everybody teaches that used to short-circuit me like crazy. Who are you talking to through the camera? And I'd be like this. My eyes would be buggy and, you know, because it didn't make any sense. So what did I start doing? I started developing a relationship with the box. Hey, camera. I'm not looking at him. I'm not even thinking of anybody. I'm playing pretend like, camera, this box right up here, this physical thing, how's it going? What you doing? And what I would do with one client I was working with, another marketer, I had her, she was terrified of video. She was a magnificent speaker, but terrified of video. I had her set up the camera in the entry hall of her house. And I have a lot of solutions like this to interweave it. That I had her set up the camera in the entry hall of the house and not turn it on. That she'd just walk by it a lot and say, "Hey, camera, how's it doing?" And look at it from different angles. Ah, that's a box of plastic, and there's probably some stuff in there that makes it work, but it's just a box. And what most people do is they make it like the transporters in Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I've gone to the land of video." Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But here, I'm going to do this, and you tell me. I'm talking as if, and this is a practiced thing. I couldn't do this when I began. I'm talking as if I'm talking to a friend, as if I really want to get this across to you. I know what I feel like when I'm speaking from what I call the wise self. And if I'm in my good frame of mind and I'd be talking to somebody, and everybody out there has counseled somebody, how has it felt when you've been in that moment of counseling somebody?
Yeah.
So, does that help? Is that concrete enough?
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Okay.
That helps a lot. Nancy says, we got a question here. Nancy says, I'm reading 3 books that are giving me some insight that I'm hearing Stephen is bringing out today. Train Your Brain by Dana Wilde, Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Basically, it seems we all need to be aware of the moment. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I practice here and now daily, intentionally. I set aside a few moments, and most people I talk to, I don't know anybody who's busier than me, except maybe you, David, but we're all so maxed. Everybody's maxed. I control my schedule. I have gotten so practiced at it, and I will give you techniques so that you can do this too. You have to choose to do it. But 3 minutes of your time, 1 minute of your time, you can change your state and practice here and now. And what that does is it puts you in the most powerful place, because the only place that you have any power is right now. And right now.
Mm-hmm.
And right now. So you need to consciously say, wow, I'm thinking about the future. There is no future. There's carpet here. There's lights in this room. See, I just pulled out of the computer, and have re-entered my room. And that's a practice you can do. You can set a timer for 2 or 3 times a day. Alarm goes off.
Mm-hmm.
Stop whatever you're doing. Your mind's going to scream at you. Let me just finish this. Say no. Say it out loud if you have to. No. I will not just finish. But stop. I have to do that too. Stop.
Was that the alarm that we heard earlier?
No, that was Hug Noah.
Oh, okay, got it.
I said,
So you have alarms for everything.
No, I use them frequently because I've had to also overcome ADD and build my focus. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So you pull yourself out of wherever you are, you breathe. Now, before you start this, the timer goes off once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day. Then you hit another timer that is for 3 minutes or 1 minute, whatever you want, and you breathe. And because you don't have to watch or monitor everything, that you're going to hear a sound in 1 to 3 minutes that's going to tell you being here now is over. Okay, you can still be here now, but intentional, right? So, and you just look around your room, and I challenge everybody to do that right now. Pull yourself out of the computer. I think you know what I mean. Re-enter your room. Don't turn the camera off.
Mm-hmm.
Re-enter your room, because I've got something. Re-enter your room and look around and find something that you've never seen in that room before. It could even be the way the corner molding has a shadow around it. It could be a spot on the rug you've never paid attention to before, and look at that and just kind of sit there and, that spot's always there. I mean, have some kind of inner notice. I guarantee you, you could do that 1,000 times in a space that you've been in for 5 years, and you'd never run out of new things to notice.
Great. Good tip. Okay. So Sheila says, going backwards a little bit, are you saying about breathing that we should consciously take audible breaths before we speak?
No. What I'm talking about is you've got to prime the pump. Imagine learning how to play the piano, and most people, their fourth and fifth finger doesn't work so well. So they have to learn, one of the exercises I had to learn was hold down 3 fingers while I can't do it so well anymore, trilling, and not on piano, trilling the fourth and fifth. Mm-hmm. And when you're first doing that, this finger pops up. Because your brain is not connected neurologically to those muscles. They don't know they're invited to the party, is like what I like to say. So the minute you start becoming aware of what it feels like to take a huge breath, you're putting data, you're putting neurophysical data into your brain, 95% of which is subconscious processing. 95%. Only 5% is what we're aware of and using. 95%. And that 95% operates at 500,000 times the speed of our conscious mind.
Wow.
500,000 times. So you're putting that neurophysical data where you're finding those muscles and becoming aware of them into the hopper. And you do that enough times and do what I call shake and stir, all of a sudden, one of 2 things will happen. You'll notice you're inhaling better when you speak, or you'll be more vividly aware of the contrast between when you're inhaling and when you're holding your breath. And that's one of my core principles is I call it Stephen's law of relativity. Einstein had a theory, I got a law, which says human beings only know something in relationship to another thing, by contrast, by distinguishing.
I love that. Stephen's law of relativity. Got it. Okay, Paul has a question here that says, just before speaking, when recording a presentation, should a person do the energy visualization, or is it more important to just be in the moment?
Can you be more specific about energy visualization? Do you know?
My guess is from reading this was that he was talking about at that time when you're getting ready to go on stage and you step back and you collect yourself and you do that.
Okay. This is, I love the arts metaphors. And what I teach is for you how to become a virtuoso of the inner world. And so what that means is you've got to learn how to play yourself. And to play yourself, you have to know what's going on with yourself. So anything you make a rule of becomes a new tension. Mm-hmm. But if your rule becomes, I do the energy visualization, you may be completely disconnected from it and doing yourself damage. But if you can find your way to the inner energy visualization in a truthful fashion, it's powerful. If not, give up. Toss in the towel and just go, forget it, I'm just talking, right? Because, well, let's leave it at that. It's really that. You must be connected to where you are at the moment and utilize what is real at that moment, which is why you need a tremendous amount of tools. And obviously, you see I have no shortage of tools that I can give you.
Right.
But you need a lot of tools because our little brains are very clever in ways that they're going to sneak around the latest thing we've figured out how to command things with and sneak attack us from behind. So best thing to do is have so many tools you can. It's like Bruce Lee, guy on this side, guy on that side. I can get them all, even without looking.
Okay, good.
It's a good image, isn't it?
It is a good image because all of those thoughts are coming at you from all different directions, right?
And know you're in the right place. it feels good. That's your best thing. If I feel lousy, it probably needs an adjustment. If I feel good, that's a good space to be in. I'm probably going to do my most intuitive, instinctive, spontaneous, creative work from there.
So having said that, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I said I took the weekend off, and it was the first time in months that I've taken the weekend off. And my wife and I did things on Saturday and Sunday. We just had fun. And she said, so how did that feel? And I thought, I wasn't anxious. I wasn't worried. I wasn't concerned about work. It just felt right. And it was almost like I couldn't put a label on it because it just felt right. And
boy, you just named something so powerful. If you remember, I think I didn't finish. There are two modes of processing of the human mind. One is linear, cognitive, step-by-step planning, figuring, right? Mm-hmm. The other is experiential, instinctive, intuitive. They are both necessary for our survival and both very powerful. The problem is when you're using one when you should be using when it would serve you best to use the other, which is why when you said, wow, yeah, I did feel that, you were in experience. Mm-hmm. The minute you started asking for a label, you moved over to figure.
Right.
Figure versus feel. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because they can support each other. But what's more important is to go, I did notice, interesting. I wonder what were the steps I took that got me there. That's a reasonable use of using linear. But still, you got to go back and say, let me memorize, not figure memorize, memorize that feeling. Because you don't have to figure your way into that feeling. You can memorize the feeling and begin to be adept at dropping into experiences. It's just not something we're taught in our culture right now. Does that make sense?
It does. Makes complete sense. It does. So let's see. I think we're out of questions. People have been very appreciative of what you've said so far. I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
This is kind of the Alex Mendosian approach. If I wanted to come work with you one-on-one, let's go to the top of your funnel. Tell me about what your one-on-one coaching prices and activity would be. What would that look like?
Well, my VIP days,
yep.
There's that kind of thing. That's a $10,000 day.
Okay.
Like Mr. Mendosian,
mm-hmm.
Who's just brilliant. Mm-hmm. So that day is massive deep dive, and I've begun splitting that into 2 parts on 2 days because I want your system to take in what we do in the first day, and then we come back and there's some shift in the second day, and we come leveraged in. So that's a $10,000 day. Hourly, that's changing. That's anywhere from $500,000 an hour, but I'm moving away as most people are.
$500,000 an hour.
I wish $500 to $1,000.
Got it. Okay.
And I'm moving away from doing that. I really am not doing that so much. I'll take on the occasional artist for old artist prices because I enjoy music.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it is, pretty much.
Okay. So today, though, you've been focusing more and more on this science of switching on and the other programs that you're talking about. Do you have anything for us today that people can work with you? Another way people can work with you?
Well, it just so happens.
I thought.
Yes. This and nobody else saw this. I have wanted available to more people. And you hear that, but when you get to be of a certain age, you start going, it would be a real shame if I wasn't able to give this to enough people and it wasn't out there in some form. I hope to live to 100, but that would really bite. So I've been creating a product, the first product of the Science of Switching On, a virtual course, which is an online course that contains 6 modules of video. There will be one each week, and there will be a Q&A after each one. So you'll get the content, work on the particular elements. We'll go through each stage of body, stage of mind, stage of motion, do work in that. We'll work on creating content, whatever your content is that you want to heighten or amplify or connect to. So it's going to be very practical. It's not going to be theoretical. You will feel like you can do things better that you want to do better. And because of NAMS, that's really what I said. All right, I'm getting this ready for NAMS. I have going to be selling at another event coming up for $9.97. Okay, but it's a beta course, and I wanted the NAMS people to give me feedback as we're going along. I want to find out what needs you have as we're doing it. So I'm going to be offering it for the ridiculous price of $297.
$297, and this will be delivered digitally, but you'll be conducting some group coaching as well through there. Is that right?
Exactly.
Group feedback sessions.
It's group coaching. It's the Q&A, so we'll go over specifically everything that happened for people as they work with the material. But also, are we doing okay here?
We're doing okay. I'm just actually wondering if I've got the link for this.
You know what? We have a new link. Let me ask Mia to bring that up real quickly. So, she's in the other room. Second thing. So what you'll do is you'll go to a page. I'll show you. Mia? My son Noah answered. Honey, can you bring in written down the link that we have? Because David's giving it out to people right now. Thanks, sweetie. On a piece of paper. Thank you. So on the page, which will give you a second, the link.
That is so refreshing that we did this by phone. I love it.
Oh my goodness. We have it down. Anyway, you can also, ridiculously enough, do a 3-pay option there is on the page as well. So,
even at the $297 price? Wow.
I just want good people involved in this and to create, excuse me one second, and to create a core group that really can take advantage of the creation and growth of something, and you can be a part of it and tune it to you and to what your needs are. That's what I want to do, because I'm sure that your needs are going to be similar to the needs of a lot of other people.
Sure.
So that link is scienceofswitchingon.com course NAMS special.
scienceofswitchingon.com /
yeah.
course special. So
Yeah.
NAMS course special?
Course NAMS special.
Course NAMS special. All right, I'm scienceofswitchingon.com / course NAMS special. And I put that in the chat box, and it actually comes up.
Yay.
So here is the page. I'm going to switch over to the page, and you can walk people through what this really is here, if you don't mind.
I can get to the page.
Well, I'm actually showing it on your screen right now.
Oh, really?
See it? There you go.
Okay. Yes, okay. So, do you want more, I'm sorry, hang on, Mia's doing this again. I need the other link, too.
Yeah,
Okay, great. All right, so do you want more presence, more impact, more influence? Well, obviously, it's all the stuff we've been talking about.
Right.
And what we're going to do on this is just get into, you can scroll down a little bit if you want to. For people to be able to increase their presence, their pizzazz, like I say, and the idea is invincibility.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be so good to feel like you're unstoppable regardless of the situation, and that is possible for you. The idea is you'll be attracting other people more, which obviously increases your bottom line, and obviously there's very concrete ways of doing that. And I'm going to show you the things that I created and learned along my journey to developing what I'm able to do at this point. Everybody can do this. Every single person I've ever worked with has ultimately felt empowered and confident, and people who had from people who had massive stage fright to people who thought they were pretty dang good but had no clue where the next zone was, where the next level was. So trust is huge in this when you're able to really care and really be truthful. Trust is important. Thank you, honey. And you do have loyalty. And we all know what it's like to have loyal fans. And David, you're certainly an expert at creating that. But everybody should just read the page and take a look at what it is. And at the bottom, oh, here's the bonus Q&A calls. But you'll also get, I'm creating a lot of new handouts all the time because I'm taking so much of what I've just taught people over the years and making really concrete, my mission is to make really concrete, step-by-step processes for how you can do this. And if you say, well, I tried that, but I ran into this problem, that's why the 6 weeks is so powerful, because I'm very, very committed to the success of the people I work with. And when you reflect to me whatever problems you're having, I'm going to get in there and work with you and solve them. And I confidently can say that. And you know what? It's a money-back guarantee. And I'd really honor that because I just know that I can make a huge difference in how you feel in the situations that are really critical for your business.
Okay.
And good news is it flows over into the rest of your existence as well.
This is a life kind of course to me. I love what you're teaching, and I love that you come from the perspective of improving your life and focusing on who you are first. So, I'm already into this, so I'm there. I'll be in this course myself.
Awesome.
So, we have a couple of questions from people about the course. One is the Q&A via Skype or another? What technology will you be using to do the Q&A?
I'll either be using, something that I've started using a lot right now is Zoom, which is great. I may move to what we're doing here, but I like to have the ability to have as many people on screen as possible who want to be. So I've done this in other high-end courses I've taught where I've had 10, 15 people, literally like the Brady Bunch, in a room, and everybody can not just see me but see each other. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can be a fly on the wall. But it's an amazing experience, and you really do feel like you're in a very intimate group when you do that. Plus, we'll have the Facebook forum where people can get support and support others as we go along as well. So it'll be Zoom or GoToWebinar or something like that.
Okay. And the other question is, when does it start?
We're going to be starting probably the first week of September, and I'll have an exact date probably within the next couple of days, but it'll be the first or second week of September. We're waiting on a couple of things that we have to find out, and it'll be, of course, recorded, transcribed, all those kinds of things. So if you are not able to be there, you'll be able to avail yourself of everything. Plus, sometimes I actually take a little bit of a poll of the people who end up in the course. I usually do it on a Tuesday or a Thursday, and I can take a poll from people in the course of what is a better time, because people come from many time zones around the world, so I'd like to find out who's part of the course to help it out.
Sure. So good. That was a clarification. Somebody was wondering if that was just going to be via text or chat, but obviously not. So that's great. And I see here on the page, I'm going to go back to the page for a second, because I see here that you have the 3-pay system in, and it looks like it's probably through JVZoo. Is that correct?
No. It's an Infusionsoft form.
Got it. Okay. So you've got 3 payments, and the first payment is $106.92, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is it 3 payments of that?
Yes.
Okay. And so once they take it, though, they have access to this for life, so they can always go back and listen to all the recordings and all of the special Q&As that you do. Is there any ongoing Q&A that follows up to this?
That's something I'm still seeing. What I always do is a follow-up at least once or twice, a couple weeks out, and then a couple weeks out from that, at the very least. Again, this is, I want to find out what's going to serve people best. But I do that checkout because I want to see once they've gotten all the material, and a couple weeks go by, they go, wow, this worked, and I ran into this. I like to check on people's progress and help redirect them. But I'm saying 6 weeks, but it's entirely possible I'm just going to have to extend that for some more material coming out, because
I watched you work at NAMS, and 4 hours came and went, and you weren't done. You wanted more. So
it's been part of the challenge for me, is to condense. But I've got it wired now, so I'll be giving everybody the cherries.
All right. Well, and it wasn't so much condensing as much as it was you just have that kind of delivery heart. So, we really appreciate you doing that. And I can't tell, you're one of my favorite teachers now, because you come from the heart, and I really appreciate that.
Honored.
So, Stephen, I think you've over-delivered once again today, and I really appreciate you being here to do this with us.
Thank you. Now, did you want to hear about that other thing? There's a way that they can get that.
Oh, yes, there is something else.
I don't know if anybody would like a course for free, but there's a way that can happen. Do you think I should talk about that?
I think you should talk about that.
Okay. All right. If you go to scienceofswitchingon.com /30X NAMS offer 30 letter X.
Okay, hold on. Start over.
Okay.
scienceofswitchingon.com
/30X NAMS offer.
Is that all lowercase?
Yes.
30X NAMS offer. Okay, just 1 second. And what are we going to find there?
What you're going to find is I'm doing a live event, a 3-day live event, starting, it's coming right up, starting on Monday, the 25th, and it's going through the 25th, 26th, 27th of this month. Did it come up for you there, David?
Oh, I misspelled something. Hold on a second. Yes. No. It's scienceofswitchingon.com/30x NAMS offer.
Correct.
And all lowercase on the 30x NAMS offer.
Yes. It's not coming up?
No, I got a 404 there.
Okay. So, well, we'll get that to you, but let me text the tech champ here. What that is it is an event that I'm doing on the 25th to the 27th with a colleague of mine named David Fagan, who is a brilliant marketer, media guru, PR expert. He was recently featured on Fox and Friends. He's a brilliant person, and we are doing it.
I'm looking.
Okay. Mia's checking it out, and we are doing this event that is going to cover. Go check it out. Thanks, honey. We are going to cover things like, the main idea behind it is, if you think that putting on an event would be valuable for you, and I'm not talking about a NAMS event, we're talking about a thing called the 30X model, which is 30 days to bring in roughly 30 people and make the objective $30,000. Now, can we promise that? No, but it's been done. David's done it. I've worked with him doing it. And we will give you the systems and the strategies and the templates and the mind maps and, you know, how to create a persuasive presentation, book more speaking gigs, learn the model, create the videos. We're going to double team. He is no slouch in the coaching area of helping people bring out the best in themselves, but he's a marketing genius. And I'm going to be handling the other side, but obviously I do know my stuff in the marketing area, and we're going to help you develop what you need to do. Did you find it?
I put it in the chat box, but I write it down.
Okay.
It's in the chat.
David, Mia put it in the chat box, if you can see that there, the right link.
30, scienceofswitchingon.com/30x event.
Yes, the word event is in there.
Oh, that was missing. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So you can read about, I don't want to go on too long about this because people have been very attentive in a long time, but you can read about that. It's a brilliant event. It's not going to be a multi-speaker thing. It's David and me really for 2 days. And it's pedal to the metal. It's not just information, it's transformation. And I think David can attest to the fact that
Yeah.
I'll come good with that promise. And if you end up coming, well, first of all, let me say that to come to the event, it's $19.97, but I'm going to do another Crazy NAMS special, which is offered to you for $12.97. You would be able to come to the 3-day event. You would also get, as a bonus, the Science of Switching On virtual online course. And guess what? You can also split that up into 3 payments. I mean, come on. If you're in California or you can get to California, I guarantee you we're going to take exceptional care of you and really push you forward and help you to achieve the next level of success you want to, and teach you how you can reach your audience, create a quick event. And even if you decide making an event's not for me, what you'll receive as far as coaching from me on stage, video, everything, in person, hands-on, and how you communicate, how you find center and all that, plus David's brilliance about marketing and all the things he's going to give you and templates and everything. It's a no-lose proposition. I hope you'll join us.
That sounds awesome. I mean, I wish I was close by and that's coming up very shortly. Like,
it sure is. We're at the Marriott Hotel by the airport in LAX, and we'll give you all the details. And if you have any questions, feel free to email Mia at mia@stephenmemel.com, mia@stephenmemel.com.
Okay.
And they can be questions to me or to Mia, and I'll be happy to talk with anybody and help you if you have any questions or, well, should I be doing this and all that. I really want to take care of you.
We really appreciate you being here again and offering that. And you've got a lot of raving fans now from the NAMS community. So, by the way, I haven't even mentioned you are going to be keynoting at the next NAMS in March. So, I'm really excited about that. I know we've talked about that, and I'm looking forward to having you on our big stage at NAMS. So, thank you for agreeing to that, Stephen.
What? Oh yes, Mia Mia came in and said, if you pay for the 30X, we will not process your payment. We'll void your payment for the Science of Switching On, the $297. So you won't get charged twice. All right.
Great.
All right. And David, thank you. I'm so grateful for the NAMS community. I met so many incredible people, and I feel so welcome, and from you especially. And I know we have an amazing friendship that is going to be lasting. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you again, Stephen. I appreciate it.
Bye.